through inclusive pedagogy. I want to begin by, first of all, giving you a definition of diversity that I created, that it is an epistemic location that's based on our embodied lived experiences that are shaped by our visible and invisible identity markers. How do we know the world? How do we experience through the bodies in which we are born? So let's begin by asking yourself, when students come into a classroom and look at you, who do they see? So when students look at you, some of the diversity that they see may pertain to things like your race, your gender expression, your size, appearance, age, cultural and regional ethnicity, if that is somehow coded through certain kinds of adornments. Now, likewise, when students look at you, what don't they see that is salient to the identity of who you are? So some of the elements of diversity that we don't see include things like heritage, political opinion, religion, family history, lived experience, neurology, class, health, sexual orientation, cognition. These are all components that make you diverse. And that likewise, when you look at your students, there are things you see and what you don't see. So thus, how does your diversity, all of those things, all of those identities that comprise who you are, the ones that are most salient, and the ones that perhaps you don't think about, how does that inform your teaching and your engagement with students? Now, I also want to present that the Academy is also a culture. And it's a culture that values certain ways of speaking and thinking and instructing, and rewards certain ways of thinking and instructing. Students enter that culture and must go through a process of learning a new language and learning new rules of conduct so that they can fit and so that they can benefit from some of those rewards. And sometimes this requires that perhaps they unlearn things and behaviors that are important to them. Now, I'd like you to read this. And now read this action. And as we think about these two examples, ask ourselves the questions, what do we communicate about culture and diversity if we do not interrogate the norms of the Academy? So what I want to propose is that one way that we can connect with students, and one way is that we can help students to connect with this new culture of the Academy, is through inclusive pedagogy. Now, inclusive pedagogy is not one single approach to teaching and learning, but rather a number of different approaches, all of which are geared to making people feel included and welcome in the classroom. So, very quickly, can you shout out, what have you felt valued as a learner? We'll get back to that. So some of the core principles of inclusive pedagogy then is facilitating respect and hospitality for all students, fostering intercultural competence, and then creating an environment where everyone learns. Now, what do each of these things look like? So facilitating respect and hospitality is something that can be achieved by establishing guidelines for the classroom, developing a rapport with your students, managing anxiety when difficult topics arise, and then remaining attentive to things that might be invisible barriers, like stereotype threat. Fostering intercultural competence, build upon the strengths and experiences that students bring to the class, and create opportunities for them to interact with one another and learn more about their identities beyond that superficial level. Creating environments where everyone learns, recognizing cognitive diversity, that all of our students, they're learning differently. They have different ways of learning. We want them to be competent in many ways of learning, but we need to try to draw that out through a variety of strategies. We also want to consider that the space matters, that where we conduct our learning, how the chairs are set up, how we use the instructional materials, that those make a difference in how we make that learning accessible to students. So I conclude then by asking, what is one new thing you can do to become a more critical and inclusive educator?